Hi, this is Aubrey Fry. You're listening to the Liverpool Connection Podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm Daz. This is my football and music episodes where I like to bring a musician on who likes football, or bring on a musician that I really appreciate and who has been part of my musical upbringing. My next guest, he's not a football fan per se, but he has been to some games, he has supported some teams, and he's been dragged to a few matches. So we'll have a good chat with him. But it's Andy Smith. He DJ'd and was part of Portishead with touring and helping them with samples and snippets. He's also half of Reach Up Disco Wonderland with Nick Halkes, and he made an absolutely stellar mix in 1998, which I still play today, called The Document, which is genre bending. I never thought quite a few of those records could go together, but Andy just made it look so much like too easy for me. But anyway, Andy Smith, welcome to the pod.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
It's great, to have someone on that I admire and that is still in the game, so to speak. But you are, you're still putting on events. You're still doing your radio show on Soho.
Yeah, I still do a radio show. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Every 2 months, yeah.
Yeah, still plugging away. I mean, I know this, the music industry has changed a lot.
Undoubtedly. Where,
you'd make somewhat kind of money. Now it's really pennies, I'm glad like Bandcamp came along, because at least, they appreciate like the artist, and the artist actually gets some of the money. But I want to go back to your musical roots. What was playing in your house as a kid?
Oh, as a kid, well, it definitely didn't come from my parents, I don't think. My mum liked Cliff Richard. And the Shadows. This is a really weird thing I always tell people. So, Apache was a big b-boy record by the Incredible Bongo Band. I probably heard the Shadows version of Apache way before I ever heard the Incredible Bongo Band version, which I think is kind of funny. But the great thing in our house though was that the radio was always on. So since I can remember, in the car or being at home, the radio was always playing. Radio 1 would have been playing. Throughout the 70s is when I started kind of becoming aware of it. And so they would play the kind of big hits of the day. And that was a solid kind of grounding in kind of big records that became pop records. And I think the charts, which are, I don't know what they are now, I don't really follow them anymore, but the charts I found fascinating from the mid 70s when I got into music into the 80s, and then I kind of lost away a bit with it. But the things that would get into the charts was just so random in those days, and I think that was just a great thing to just have on in the background all the time.
Well, I think all you need to do is kind of look at Top of the Pops. Growing up, I mean, it was a very family thing where, I know in my household, everyone would get together and watch Top of the Pops, but it was, I mean, you couldn't see a more bizarre program in your life. I mean, I saw the other day, like on YouTube, I like to look back on, some of the 70s, 80s Top of the Pops, and you've got, Combine Harvester was number one.
The words was fantastic.
Yeah, and you just go in. Back then you're like, oh, that's brilliant, and now you're just like, how on earth that gets a number one? Because that was the thing. I think back then a lot of novelty songs would reach number one. So, I mean, my mum was an Elvis fan, massive Elvis fan. But then I had my dad, who was Black Sabbath AC/DC, Deep Purple. So it was like, he did all the guitar stuff, and then I'd have the rock and roll of Elvis. So I got this really mesh of heavy metal and rock and roll, which, kind of put me on the way to, I like every genre. It doesn't really matter if the music like speaks to me. I'm good, and I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I think another pivotal moment for me when I think about it is, I think in 1976, we bought a new hi-fi system at home. There was always a hi-fi system in the corner, and in '76 we bought a new hi-fi, and for some reason we got a fairly good deal on this hi-fi. Bought it in Clevedon, just down the road from Portishead, the place, and it was cheap because it was a turntable and a tuner, no cassette deck. We had to buy a separate cassette deck, but it had an 8-track machine, and it was like 8-tracks were, I know 8-tracks were bigger in America than they were in UK, but 8-tracks were dying by 76, 77. Nobody really wanted 8-tracks anymore. But we had this hi-fi with an 8-track, and I don't know where, but from somewhere, somebody gave us a load of 8-tracks. So I do remember having, Stevie Wonder 8-tracks, Ike and Tina Turner, soul stuff on 8-track. I had to wait for it to go around to the next program so you can fast forward it. So, I do remember that kind of stuff being on in the background, but, that wasn't intentional that I went out and got Innovisions on 8-track. It just suddenly turned up one day, and it's like, oh, we've got this player, stick in this Stevie Wonders. That was great as well.
Imagine having a Ford Capri with an 8-track.
My uncle did have a car with an 8-track in it, yeah, and there was just 8-track tapes all over the car, where you can look for 8-tracks everywhere. Yeah, but maybe he gave us the ones we had. I can't remember now.
Yeah, those things are massive. I mean. Yeah. Like my dad had loads of them, and it just fill the front seat of the car with just 8-track. I'm just like, again, looking back, you're just like, oh God, good God, times have changed. Yeah. But how did you get into DJing then? Was that an early progression for you?
I'm not sure how I got into it. I mean, I was into music for like I say, the music was on in the background, so that was always there. But the time I heavily got into music and was aware of buying records was probably 1978. For a while, it was just buying kind of punk records, and also disco records and pop records, I guess. Blondie and poster of Debbie Harry on the wall and all that stuff. Gary Newman, I was really into Gary Newman. I saw the other week actually, and so that was into probably music for about a year, and then me and my mate Nick, who I still DJ with now, we were great friends at school, and we seemed to be the only kids at school in 1978, I guess, who were aware of DJ culture. I mean, all my other friends were into heavy metal. Or by 79 two-tone, maybe mods, but nobody was aware of DJ culture. But we actually were. We used to read James Hamilton column in Record Mirror. Debbie Gopi did a disco page in Smash Hits, I think, which had beat per minutes on. It had beat per minutes on. We were studying beat per minutes on Debbie Gopi's disco page in 1978 without really understanding what it was all about. But we were just fascinated by it. Plus, we had school discos. There was a school disco crew called the Crazy Psychedelic Shack, who would wheel in their mobile disco setup with the lights and everything into our common room of our school, and would play records. And it would be a mixture of obviously pop records of the day, and some AC/DC for the heavies and Stranglers for the punks, and obviously disco records. And me and my friend would just watch and just be in amazement at the way that they put these things together. I don't think things were mixed, particularly well. They didn't even have various speed decks, but it was just fascinating the way you could just keep the music rolling, without any gaps, and that just fascinated us really, as it does to this day.
Yeah, I had a really good conversation with Greg Wilson. It was crazy to think like he was one of the first ones, especially in the UK, to like mix on the telly.
Yeah.
You know, which is very, very strange to me. But yeah, same with me. I was just, you know, at an early age as well, just going to YMCA school like discos as well, just watching how they can relate to a crowd and make a crowd dance. There was too much talking back then, you know, on the mic. Obviously, they had to kind of G up the crowd, but I think for me, it was mostly like sound systems.
Right.
It really brought, you know, when I wanted to DJ as well. But, you know, it's fascinating. Everybody's little DJ story of how they became a DJ. So when was the first time like you bought decks? Because obviously, you know, Techniques really expensive. They still are. So
yeah. Well, the first thing, bizarrely, me going back to me and Nick again, we the first times we DJ'd was with two hi-fis and no mixer, and we just had one hi-fi each, and we'd go, you know, I'm turning it down now. Bring yours in. You know, so the DJ with two separate hi-fis with the speakers next to each other on different setups. Then I probably in about 1980, 81, I bought your classic Citronic, you know, disco decks with your remote deck starts and all that, you know, static speed. They weren't very speed, and I did kids discos. Me and Nick again. We used to do kids discos on a Saturday afternoon for the kids just running about, and we'd be playing, you know, hits of the day. I'd actually record the top 40. Taking out the DJ, and then underneath I'd have a cassette deck, and I'd play it off of tape and pretend I was playing a record, because kids didn't notice anyway, because I couldn't afford all the pop records at the time. So I had the disco decks for a fair while, and bought my first Technics in 1986. I actually went into the shop. I worked in a club. The first club I ever worked at was a club in Bristol called Misty's. I didn't get paid much. I got paid like something like £26 to do Friday and Saturday. Nothing really. I got free records from the record shop, with cheap records from the record shop nearby. But I basically worked in there, saved up for about 8-9 months to go to the hi-fi shop across the road. So I worked the latter part of 85 and 86. I went in there to buy, because there wasn't. I don't think there was really any DJ shops. I had to get my Technics from a hi-fi shop. So I went across the road, and with my first lot of money to buy my first one. It's like, I want to buy an SL1200, because I knew what they were then, and I'd seen other people using them. I want to buy an SL1200, and the guy was like, "Well, you sure? Because there's a black one. It's just come out," and he showed me a black one. I'd never seen a black one. It's the first time the SL1210s had ever been out, and then I was like, "Oh no!" You know, I'd had in my mind I wanted to buy 1200s for you know, a year or so, and then all of a sudden they had a black one. So I was like, should I get the silver? Should I get the black? So I got the black ones because I'd never seen them. They just look different, and I've still got them today.
That's insane, and they probably still work really, really well.
Yeah, they're still going. Yeah. I've been serviced a few times, but they still work.
Yeah, it's 1210s are just the best. I'm pretty upset that I sold mine like years and years ago just to upgrade to like CDJs, and I kicked myself over and over again. It's just because there's nothing like vinyl. There really is. Because I just think like with vinyl, it's not just the record itself, it's the artwork that goes into it. You know, I just think having music on a USB stick is a bit, you know, plain and demoralizing to sometimes. You know, there's nothing like I used to play a lot of like the raves, and having to carry a full record box across fields. You know, my back doesn't miss it, but it's just a great feeling. And but spending time in a record store, you know, maybe spending 3-4 hours there and going through all these records, and then maybe only buying one or two, was that kind of, because for me it's really easy within the first 30-40 seconds I know if I'm gonna like the rest of the track. Are you kind of the same?
Oh yeah, I can tell less than that. Yeah. I play a record and I think if it doesn't excite me in the first 10 to 15 seconds, then it isn't going to excite somebody in the crowd.
Yeah,
that's what I've always kind of said.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, but are you the same also though? You'll go to these record stores and you just spend hours there, and then you come away with one or two, and the owners just kind of look at you like.
Well, I work in a record shop now, so I don't have to do that. So I'm in a record shop every day, pretty much. Well, 5 days a week now. So, I get first dibs on all the stuff that comes in, so it's great. But yeah, I mean, since 1978, I mean, I pretty much went in record shops every week of my life. I would always, you know, I go in the cheap section, get cheap stuff. You know, when I couldn't afford it, you get all the cheaper bits. You know, go straight to the, you know, because that was the time when every department store had a record department. Woolworths, Boots, Menzies, you know, all these places, Debenhams, they all had a record department, and they'd all sell stuff off cheap once it had gone out of the charts. Or it didn't ever chart, but that wouldn't mean to me that it was a bad record. I mean, I got some great records that never charted that I still play now, like big disco records that never got in the top 40. If they don't go in the top 40, then Debenhams would think they're rubbish, so they just stick them in the cheap bin. And I was, you know, always going through picking up Rick James or something, or, you know, I was really, even in the late 70s, I was aware of, because I'd read these magazines and I wouldn't always know the tunes, and until I used to record some radio stations on independent local radio in UK, like religiously. I got cassettes even now of radio stations that would be playing soul and you know, they used to call it funk, but it was kind of disco at the time. So I had a pretty good knowledge, but even so I would know the names, or I'd know the labels. You know, if something was on, I don't know, Excalibur or Caliber, I go, oh, well, that could be a disco tune, and, you know, check it out and get it cheap, and, you know, it was all right. Well, most of the time.
Yeah, I used to always love those 45 bins.
Yeah,
they're brilliant. Because it was like throwaways for them. You know, they had the top 40 ones, and, you know, they go through them rather quickly. But then the ones that nobody wanted, 99 pence. Yes, please. Yes, please. Especially, I found a lot of good stuff on the B-sides. The A-sides weren't that great, but the B-sides seem to, like, be these hidden wonders, you know. And I think that's
lost now, isn't it? The great B-side.
Oh, definitely. But I do like how like vinyl is making a comeback. It kind of went away for a little while. You know, obviously the invention of the CD, so people were buying CDs instead of vinyl. But I've just noticed in the last couple of years, especially over here in America, more people are buying the vinyl again, because they really appreciate like what goes into making the record, again with the artwork. I mean, as a kid, I would read every word that was on an album.
Oh yeah, me too. All the notes, yeah.
Or, you know, down to the little, like, where it was produced, you know, who did this, who did that. Yeah, I just loved it, and I think that's one thing that I really miss about, like, not buying vinyl anymore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, with an MP3, it doesn't even tell you who produced it or who's playing it.
Yeah. Just to hit the button and you bought it, and there you go. You know, a lot of them don't even show the artwork on your CDJs. So, yeah.
Probably not.
No, it doesn't. A lot of them just says the BPMs. So it's kind of a lost thing. But when did you think, like, all right, you know, I can make it like maybe not a career out of it, but I can, you know, start getting paid? Because I know as a young kid, I mean, you know, YTS.
Well, yeah, it was always a hobby. I mean, I made a little bit of money on the way, like doing the kids' disco. Made a little bit of money just by records, and then I was doing a couple of. Well, I worked in that Misty's for a while to buy the decks. But I didn't really enjoy it there because you had to play lots of pop music. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. And then I had a friend I used to DJ with every now and again, and I don't even know if he paid me actually. But it was more of a hobby thing. I didn't ever think it would turn into a career. In fact, I was working in a regular job in an office. I'd always go to lunch at lunchtime. Always go to the record shop. But yeah, it wasn't really until I met Jeff from Portishead. Because we both lived in Portishead, the place, it was only when I met him, and I know subsequently, the Portishead stuff came out, and he always said, "Oh well, I've got this project, and when it becomes bigger, you can warm up for us and whatever, do all the stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." And then it's like, and then like maybe 5 years later, bang, first album comes out. It does get big, and true to his word, he's like, "Well, you can warm up for all the shows around the world," and the thing is, the radio stuff would come in, like the Essential Mix, Radio 1 Essential Mix, and comes in to management. Can you do Radio 1 Essential Mix? And Jeff does do the cuts on the album. He's not really like a DJ, club DJ. So he's like, well, I don't want to put 2 hours of music together. And Andy will do that. Andy, can you do that? So I, did all that stuff, which I kind of enjoyed doing. It was great, so. And then because club culture was so massive in the 90s, just everybody wanted, a Portishead DJ to play in the club where, because the club circuit was massive in the UK and around the world even. So I became the Portishead DJ because nobody else really wanted to do it. And I was like, great, I'll be up for doing that, So kind of it all fell into place really.
Well, I mean, I would think it's most DJs' dream is to have an essential mix. It's one of those to tick off the box.
Yeah, but it wasn't under my name. It was Portishead, so nobody really knew I did it. That's the only trouble. It was only when the document came out that kind of changed, because then the document was me. So that was like me under my own steam rather than, on the shirt tails of Portishead all the time. Anyway, it was a bit on the shirt tails of Portishead, I know. But it was like, my name was on it, and I was happy to, that came out, and then it propelled me further, I think.
I mean, with before we chat a little bit about the footy, because I do want to know about Bristol City and being dragged to matches by your mates. But with Portishead, you were with them for the first 2 albums. I actually remember I went to the show when you played here in Austin at the Austin Music Hall, and you were put in the corner. Yeah. And we're all there, and I always like to show up early because I always like to hear the band before, but I'd heard a DJ was playing, and what came out of those speakers, I literally was just gobsmacked, and I mean that in all honesty. I was just like, this is the music I want to hear, because it wasn't just hip hop, it wasn't just soul, it wasn't just funk, it was all combined. And I'd never really heard that before. Obviously, I've heard hip hop DJs and all that, but I'd never heard somebody put it together so well as yourself.
Cheers. Well, it was meant to kind of highlight the influences of Portishead, really. So, the soundtracks, and it was great. It was really amazing just to hear some of those soundtracks so loud on a great sound system as well. But it was also like original hip hop samples, things that have been, sampled in other hip hop records, just to show where Portishead had kind of come from. Because Jeff, me as well, but Jeff, was really, really into American hip hop, primarily American hip hop. And lived and breathed it. That was his thing. It all came from listening to Marley Marl and listening to Gangstar, and that's how he made those beats from those reference points. It wasn't, and I'm fusing with the soundtrack stuff. That's where he kind of came from, and he wanted to show that those were his influences. Really, and that's I was, I love that stuff, so I was happy to play it. It was great.
I also remember the show because somebody had thrown a Barbie doll at Beth, and really? Beth just looked, and she just was like, "What's this for?" And I remember her taking the head off the Barbie and throwing it back in the crowd, and I was like, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's just one, you go from like listening to yourself DJing and then going to Portishead and listening to them. And it was just so well done. Mm-hmm. Because, sometimes when you go see bands, the band playing before is totally different. So it's not like a smooth transition. But between you playing and then Portishead playing, it was as smooth as you can be. But I think with and I've seen some interviews with Jeff and stuff, and with Adrian as well. Just the trip hop label kind of got stuck on them. Mm. They were like the poster with Massive Attack, the poster group for trip hop. And I definitely know with the third album, they wanted to get away from that, because it seemed like anything from 80 to 105 BPMs was trip hop back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I can understand why, they wanted to get away from that. But I mean, for you, like, were you helping them with the album, like with the samples?
Well, I used to take crates of records to Jeff even in the early days, because he had a sampler and a computer, but he didn't really have any records to sample. He wasn't really, if he went to a record shop, he wouldn't really know the first place to look. I think he wouldn't mind me saying that. I mean, he might now, but then he didn't. So I would just take up loads of stuff and just say, oh, you might want to hear this. You might want to check that out. Maybe something on there might be good. I remember I first played in the Meters and was like, whoa, the Meters. Wow, these are great, aren't they? And he just, I just kind of helped him just pick some bits. I mean, it was him that was picking the bits. It wasn't, I mean, there was the odd thing I'd go, this might be pretty good, Jeff, but his ear was always finely tuned to what he wanted. So he, I just helped him in some directions to kind of take stuff from, I guess, really.
Yeah, I even remember him playing on a Gemini mixer, and I think because
it had a really cheap mixer. Is it Gemini? I think it was. It was made to fade.
Yes, it had the button.
It had, my other friend Paul actually put buttons in for it so he could transform scratch. It didn't actually have buttons in the original one, but he actually put buttons in it. He made a bespoke one with buttons in it.
Yeah, I remember seeing him and seeing the mixer and just going, is Jeff scratching? But then it was the button going.
Yeah, that's right. The made to fade had the transform in it, and then he had the Vestax with transform buttons put in, like an 05, which doesn't have transform buttons. That's right. Great.
Mental. Well, before I want to talk about the document, Bristol. You're from Bristol.
Yeah.
Let's have a little bit of a football chatter. Right. So younger, you're into Bristol City, and when we're talking off the camera, Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, when I was really super young, Bristol City was the local team, so you kind of had to support them. But I think because Liverpool were kind of just doing really well in the mid to late 70s, I think as a kid I just kind of gravitated towards Liverpool. And I had the football kits and everything, and even the away strip as well. And so I remember like Kevin Keegan being the top striker, and then Kenny Dalglish coming in, and I never went to Anfield or anything. I possibly saw Liverpool when they played Bristol City, because Bristol City were in the top league then. So all the big teams would come to Bristol. We could see the big teams. So I probably did see Liverpool play Bristol City at Ashton Gate. Yeah. Good times.
With your mates though, like because that's the thing that we do, isn't it? Like you go places where your mates are going, whether you like it or not. Like, I mean, for me, kind of the same. Not with football. I mean, you didn't have to like drag me to see Liverpool play. They had to drag me to some shows. But how was it for you then? When did you kind of just go, football's not going to be part of my life?
Well, the thing is, I don't think I went to football with my mates. I mean, I went to football with a guy, like a neighbour who was going, and he kind of offered to just take me. I would have been like 10, 11, pretty young. So I kind of went with him and his mates. But I didn't really kind of like I mean, this was the late 70s, mine. I didn't really like the vibe of the crowd. It was a bit. A bit racist and a bit like, I'm not sure if I like this. It's not like watching it on Match of the Day, is it? So I kind of I went to a few matches, but I had a bit of a downer on it. I didn't think it was really what I wanted to kind of pursue. Really, probably because of the fans. Really, great to say.
Yeah, I mean, totally understand, because 70s and 80s were a lot of bad times. There were people there not for the football. They were just there for a scrap. And
that was it. Yeah, I couldn't quite grasp that myself.
Yeah, I mean, going to away games, and as soon as you get off the train, you're met by like bricks and bottles is not very fun. Might be fun for a few times. I remember being 15 and thinking Billy Big Balls. But then you grow out of it and you just like grow up. You see grown men still being absolute knobheads, and then the younger generation coming through are looking up at these middle-aged men and going, "Oh, well, it seems all right. I'll do it," because it seems like it's starting to come back again.
Right, is it?
It went away for a while, and now it seems to be coming back, especially with England fans.
Yeah,
I just don't understand. It's like, just go watch football. That's all. Pay your money, go watch football, have a pint or two, go out. That's it. End of the day. But anyways, let's.
That was football for me, and I wasn't really playing it, so
it's all good. Like I said, I've had guests on before that at least you had a little bit of football story.
I did. And because I got friends who are very much more into football in Bristol City than me, I have been dragged to a few matches since those late 70s, early 80s days. But although they were Millwall and Stoke City, I think possibly the two worst teams to probably see. So that didn't really help me get back into it, let's say.
You said you were in the Millwall section, right?
Oh yeah, I was with my mate, and we didn't know which end was which, and we ended up thinking we were going in the City end, but we were actually in the Millwall end, and we couldn't get excited when City scored. We had to be very quiet.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like I've seen some of those Millwall fans. You don't want to mess with them. No chance.
Even the ladies, unbelievable.
No, none of it. Even the kids. Yeah, you mind your P's and Q's, but yeah. Well, let's get on to the document, because again, how did that all come together? I mean, obviously, you did the essential mix beforehand, right?
Yeah.
And then was it just because it got signed obviously to a major label?
It did in America, not the UK.
Which is like mind-boggling as well. Just because of like your roots in the UK, So I mean,
it got put out by the same label as Go Beat in the UK, but it was signed by London Records in New York, and then that all happened because I did after a gig in Boston, I had to do a radio station called WFNX. They invited somebody. Can somebody from the band come and do DJ on this show? And that became me. So I just ended up doing it, and it was funny because we were driving to the radio station because it was a bit out of town, I guess, and they were just playing this like hard techno. And I was like, I don't really play anything like this. I'm not going to be playing anything like this. No, it's cool. You do your thing. So I get on there. I mean, luckily maybe there was like the news on, so I didn't go straight out of the techno. But then I went on and just did my mad thing, playing just all kinds of crazy hip hop and the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and whatever. And and I always remember somebody came in like knocking on the door. And I was like, came to talk to me, and they were like, "Yeah, the switchboard's going crazy." And I said, "Oh, sorry. Yeah, should I stop? I mean, yeah, if it's not really what people want." And they were like, "No, people are loving it. People are loving it. Carry on." So I was like, "Oh, great, this is cool. They're kind of liking it." And that show was recorded, and the FFRR actually did like bootleg cassettes of it. and they were actually sending it to places where Portishead were going to be playing on the tour to promote the Portishead show. So they get played on other radio stations, I guess. I don't know if it was. So that kind of cassette had a bit of a buzz going about it. And then a guy called Neil Harris, I believe it was, from London FFRR, one of the head guys there, just kind of stopped, because he used to come to many of the shows, just kind of had a chat with me after one of the Portishead gigs and said, do you want to do this as a proper release? And I was like, wow, yeah, that would be fantastic. And although I tried to license the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and all that, which I didn't get, it took me a while to whittle it down to stuff that was licensable around the world as well. But when there was enough stuff, yeah, I did it.
That's what I was going to ask you, like how long from start to finish? Because, obviously a mix album can either go from usually 15 to 20 records. How do you dwindle that down? How many mixes did you do before you were like, this is the one?
Well, there is I don't know if you know, but there is, I found during lockdown, I believe, I found a recording of one of the first demo versions that I sent to them, which I put out on CD, I buy it on CD. And it's got it's probably got about 50% of stuff that did get on the final one, like Tom Jones is on there, and some of the hip hop stuff's on there. But there was a lot of other stuff, the Beatles, for example, which obviously couldn't get cleared. But I just wanted to give him I think he wanted an idea of what I would do in a 74-minute kind of CD length. So that was one that I gave him, and then we went from there trying to license stuff. But it probably took quite a few rounds of here's another 20. Oh, we've got 4 of those. Here's another 20. Oh, we got 5 of those until we had enough. I mean, and to be honest, it's not even that long a mix. It's only like 36 minutes long. So yeah, we probably didn't get as much as I wanted to do, but I managed to extend it out and make it long enough. I don't think I realize it's pretty short.
Yeah, I wish it was longer, but I think people don't realize, like, again, this day and age, you can get on SoundCloud, Mixcloud, and put out a mix. But to put out, properly, like, licensed and everything, you've got to go through all these loopholes, and you've got to get, permission from the record company. A lot of them. I mean, how does that work then? Like, does the major label that you put it out on give royalties, or is it basically like these artists going, they're going to be on a mix? Yeah, that's fine. Because I know.
I think royalties should in theory have filtered down to the artist, but whether they did, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was because it came out worldwide. That was another issue. There was like Lalo, it's going to be Lalo Schifrin track on there at one point, but it couldn't be licensed for the whole world, so it can only be licensed for America. So it's like, oh, if we put that on, they're going to put it out in America, can't put it anywhere else. So that had to go. Well, there was some tracks were like that where we couldn't get worldwide, but they in the end there was enough to go on there that were worldwide. So that was lucky.
Did you think it would be as successful as it was? Because
no.
I love that. I love that answer. That quick answer. No, I mean it's something that obviously you took time to do, to mix, and you do have people that are like always who really don't understand the art of DJing. They call they'll say they're not musicians, but to me, you're using 2 turntables to manipulate the track, and you're turning it into something else. Because again, to this day, I mean, again, 98, that's a long time ago, and I still listen to it. My mate still listens to it. I know loads of people still listen to it, and every time I listen to the mix, it's like I always hear a little bit something different that I missed the first time around. So for you to not think it was, going to be a success, and then it is, you've got to be like, job well done there.
Oh, I was immensely pleased with the way it sold, and like I say, just propelled my name and my career. Like, well, to you now, it was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I know it was off the back of Portishead, and they've obviously pushed it off the back of Portishead, and Portishead were big and were touring, and I was DJing to a lot of people, you know, because I was DJing to everybody who came to see Portishead. So over the world tour. You know, I guess I reached a lot of people who, and my name, I saw a few posters recently, and my name was actually on the bottom of a lot of the things saying Portishead with DJ Andy Smith. So I guess, you know, I hit a lot of people. So I think there was a hunger for anything that was to do with Portishead, I guess, at that point. Mm-hmm. So I managed to write that. And as the first track was essentially one of Jeff's unused kind of beats, like it was like, you know, I kind of like that the first track is a Jeff Barrow, GB Beats is a Jeff Barrow thing that he made before, well, as he was recording Dummy probably. And then it sort of kind of went from there into me kind of doing my thing. So I kind of like that trajectory kind of thing. Yeah, well, so there was a bit of Portishead kind of in it, you know, bits of Portishead in it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
Any help you can get, you know, that's the whole thing. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But you know, you're up to number 4 now in documents. Plus,
the fourth one was a weird one because that was going to come out on Universal 10 years ago, and I delivered it to them, and then at the last minute they were like, "Oh, actually, we're not going to do it anymore." So it sat on my hard drive for 10 years, and then I found it again, like the demo document one, and I thought, oh, I must have just put it out because otherwise nobody's ever going to hear it. So I just pressed the load myself and put it out.
Yeah, that's what you can do. You know, I like it with like authors who like self-publish books as well. You know, and again, same with artists that, you know, they don't get the record backing because what was a hit, you know, 15, 20 years ago. And then you do, you know, like a second album or something, and it doesn't sell as well. You're already like off the books at the record label, and I think that's, you know, as you know, like being in the music industry, it's a throwaway industry. So many good bands with their second albums or their second mixes they've just been dropped.
I mean, luckily for me, is like the document 1, 2, and 3 were on 3 different labels, and then 4 self-released. So there was no label that actually did a second one. They all came out on different labels. Although I've done 3, I'm about to do the 3rd BBE disco compilation. So BBE, God bless them, I've stuck with me. But as far as the document albums went, yeah, they were on different labels anyway.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you have to do what you have to do in this cutthroat business, you know, to get your music heard and everything. But how did obviously, you know, you've talked about Nick and, you know, been best mates since school. Yeah. How is it like, you know, just being able to work with him, DJ with him, and just basically have a good damn time?
Well, yeah, it's funny because. Yeah, so I met him in like 1976. So basically before either of us were into music, really, and going back to football, we used to play football as what we did. And then we kind of both got into music at the same time. It's kind of odd, really. And both got into DJing side of music rather than, you know, rock or, you know, live kind of bands. Although we were into that as well. But and I think now the fact that, I mean, we went off to do our different things, you know. I obviously did the Portishead thing, and he started XL and you know, worked with the Prodigy, signed the Prodigy, and then did Incentive and you know, done loads of things over his career. But then we've kind of got back together in the last, well, it's probably like 10 years or so now, and DJ together again. And I think the thing is, because we know each other so well, I think when we do back to back, I think it's possibly different to other people because we really have known each other so long. So like, if one of us is queuing a tune up and then the other one goes, do you think that might be better than that one? You know, we won't go, oh, what you're saying, you know, we'll be like, you're probably right. Yeah. You know, it's all about the end result and making sure that the crowd are happy. And, you know, and the other one would be like, maybe you're right. Actually, that probably would be a better one. You know, we don't take it badly. We just like, kind of try and build together our knowledge of stuff and make it a good night if we can. Although I'm sure I go off on a tangent, and he goes off on a tangent, but in general, we just kind of work well together, I think, because we know each other so well.
Yeah, because I've seen many back-to-backs before, and it just doesn't work with quite a few. You can tell there's no chemistry. But I've seen some of the videos of you and Nick, and you just look like you're having a blast. Which that's what DJing is supposed to be. Not only the punters having a blast, but the DJs behind the decks. Obviously, not taking selfies of each other like the kind of new social media DJs are these days. And that's another question that I have for you. Like, obviously, don't want to feel like a granddad. Back in my day, blah blah was better. It's a technology. You've got your mobile phone now that any second of the day you can take, photos, videos. But for me, it's just living in the moment. Like to go to a show and to hold a camera up for an hour or even 90 minutes, I just don't understand. I'm trying to wrap my head around why you would pay so much money to go see these bands, see these DJs, and all you're doing is looking through your phone. How is it? Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you could go to the show and then you could come home and it'll be, by the time you get home, somebody would have filmed it and it's on YouTube. So you could watch it there. But, I do appreciate that more and more DJs are kind of saying like, okay, I've had enough. Let's start putting stickers on the phones.
Yeah, some people do that.
For you, what DJing for so long and now coming into this new era, what's your thoughts on, where it's going?
Well, it is different. The crowd are different. They react to you differently, and they use their technology that wasn't there before. It don't really bother me too much. I mean, given the choice, I actually prefer personally to play to an older crowd, because older crowds have got more depth of knowledge, so I can go deeper and play deeper stuff. It's more about how they get into the stuff really than whether they use their phones or not. I don't really mind if they use their phone. Some of the younger crowd, because they're younger, don't have a depth of knowledge, and that's what kind of sometimes it just is a bit of a shame. But they of course they're not going to, because they're younger, what I mean. But when I do sometimes I do like a rare groove and soul house night. So I do an old school, meaning to an old school house night sometimes. And I do a rare groove soul and boogie night, or Northern Soul. Love my Northern Soul. Those people that in general, they really know their music. They know what they want to hear. There's no messing about. There might be some things they don't know, but they'll appreciate you more. They'll appreciate you going that little bit deeper and finding this piece that maybe they haven't heard for a long time, but doesn't it sound good still? Whereas the younger crowd just like,
Bangers
on TikTok, I don't know if they're really going to know it, what I mean? Which is a shame sometimes. But it depends where you play. Some places are better than others. Yeah.
Well, I think the attention span as well. The young kids, like 2-minute mixes. It's in and out, or if you ain't playing bangers, like songs that they've heard on TikTok or social media, it's a shame, because there's a lot of good music out there that these kids could really like get into, and that's another thing. Like I really appreciate what you do, like the Northern Soul, funk, like you said, the disco. Disco got a bad rap for me, because there's some class disco out there. I mean, in America, it's a dirty word.
Well, still.
Well, I would think so. Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of those. I think like what were they doing? They were burning like the disco records over here. Like I just don't understand that. That's like going a bit, bit too crazy. But yeah, I mean, there's disco out there that I like, and it's how you put it together.
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad in every genre, I think. There's some bad disco records and there's some great disco records.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to dig out the good ones.
100%. So in it's festival season. So do you have any festivals you're going to or playing at?
Playing at one tomorrow night, actually, in Ireland, called Beyond the Pale. Me and Nick doing Saturday night, 1 o'clock in the morning start, I think. And there's a couple of others. We've done a few already, 1 or 2 already, and we've got maybe a few more to come. But yeah, luckily we managed to still do a couple of festivals, which we both kind of enjoy doing that. They're different to club gigs, but as long as it doesn't rain.
Yeah, which is hard in England, but there's just so many festivals now to choose from. It's mental.
I think a lot are having problems, financially, but yeah, at the minute there's still a few running. Yeah.
So quickly before we leave, I always like to ask my musical guest your ultimate festival headliners for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it could be band, could be DJ, and alive or dead.
One act per night.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Friday night, Gangstar with Guru, Risen from the Grave. That could be possible. We're supported by Rakim. Saturday night, Scratch Bastard, DJing for 6 hours. And Sunday night, Gregory Isaacs, Risen from the Grave again, I'm afraid.
Lovely. I've noticed you're a big Scratch Bastard fan. I love his videos, and again, he's another one I admire just because he's
actually doing the mixed version of Reach Up Volume 3 on CD. Just got
really.
Yep. I asked him if he would mind doing it, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to do it." So I was like, "Wow!" So yeah, I gave him all the tracks. It's been a while coming in, but it arrived a week before last, and it's been put together now. So yeah, the CD will be one CD unmixed tracks, and the mixed CD will be Scratch Bastard.
Brilliant. Well, on that, if anyone wants to check out Andy's music or mixed CDs, you can go to djandysmith.com. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, when I do these pods, they go by so quickly. I'm already looking, it's already after 50 minutes, and I'm just like, because the conversation flows. It's just, again, I'm very happy that you came on, and you.
Oh well, I'm glad I did, because when you first asked, it was like football. I thought, it's going to be too football centric, and I'm not really, the biggest football fan. I mean, for example, it was the Euros, and I went out with my wife for a meal on Sunday. I didn't even know the England match was on. Isn't that terrible? But got into a pub after and was like, "Oh, there's an England match on." I was just finishing. Oops. Thank you. I must pay more attention.
It's all good. Like I said, even if it's a smidgen of football, there's still loads to talk about, like musically. So I really appreciate you coming on. Please, everybody, like and subscribe. Put your notifications on, and we will see you next time.